Hello, my friends. How are you? Thank you so much for stopping by. This is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. How's everybody doing this lovely Tuesday afternoon? Thank you so much for hanging out and being cool. I am trying out something new today, and I'm hoping it's gonna work. Let me check something out here. I need to make sure everything looks good. Perfect. Yes. Okay, so if you're hanging out and being cool with me, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that. This is the Outstanding Life Show. Hold on, let me remove the overlay. This is the pre-show. This is where we're talking about. Today's topic is actually, this was recommended to me by one of my friends in another group, and we were chatting about success and how we can sometimes get in the way of success, and what are some things that we can do to help mitigate that. And so what does that look like? What does that mean? So in a nutshell, we actually related it to the seven dwarves, and it just became a whole other thing. It started out as just an acronym for HALT, H-A-L-T. And then as we started talking more and more, we started adding more and more onto it. So what started out as a simple HALT became its own separate hilarious event. Anyway, okay. So question of the day is, what stops you, or what holds you in your tracks? So what are some things that can kind of get in the way? We know that halting can be like stop right there, and halting is definitely a way that can, I want to say, roadblocks. Like, what are some things that can definitely trip us up, that can throw us off? Obviously those can be things that we weren't really expecting. Those could be something like circumstances or situations. It could be something even a little bit further, like, I don't want to say consequences. That's much more of a deeper component. Like, if we were saying, what can stop me is if I have a limiting belief, that is definitely something that can hold me back. If it is something that's outside of it, maybe it's much larger of an issue. If I don't have enough resources, that can be something that would hold me back. Like, playing on to that, if we find ourselves in a situation where it's the lack of resources, I would almost challenge that to saying maybe it's a lack of resourcefulness. Yes, we are in a predicament where we can run out of resources, we can run out of time, run out of patience. Maybe we could do something more effectively with our time, with our patience. And this is kind of what we're jumping into here. If we move into something a little bit quicker, one of the things that I use to help mitigate that is actually, hold on, I want to show you something cool. It's a little video. Well, it's a series of videos. And this is what I use to help mitigate my component to hunger, which is the letter H. So I'm just going to remove the overlays here. Hold on, let's take those off. And I'll kind of walk you through this. It's a little fun. So here's what I do with my food. Here we see we've got my onions. I've got my peppers in there. There's some green onions and carrots and mushrooms. There's quite a few things. Okay, now let's try this one. Sorry. So the next one here is the second step, where I've got it all chopped up, and the onions I save for last. I don't know about you, when it comes to onions is the last thing I cut up, because it just becomes waterworks. I just start bawling my eyes. Doesn't matter how many times I do it, I have come to appreciate that onions would be the last thing I cut up. Okay, so let's go look at the next one. So here is the much more final product, where I've taken my food and I've chopped it up, and I've also prepackaged it, like in little tiny Ziploc bags. And then so here I've got another shot for you. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. where I've got 8 bags. Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to cook all 8 right now? No, I'm actually not. I'm going to take the 8, and if you look right up, oh wait, no, it's over here. If you look above there, I've got a little slow cooker in the corner. So that's one of the secrets I do. I'll take my food and I'll break it up, I'll pre-package it, and then I'll throw it in the freezer. And then once it's in the freezer, when I need to take out a meal, I'll be able to use that in the slow cooker and then set it to 4 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, or whatever. And then I've got a healthy, whole cooked meal in that time. Which reminds me, I need to take something out and put it in for today, for it to be ready for tomorrow. Now, if you notice, I've got some food here. I've got another shot here. So here's another time where I did smaller portions. And there's, what is that, 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then it's jam-packed. I've got the smaller Ziploc bags, and it's packed full of veggies. And it's important that I use veggies because then I've separated the protein from the veggies. Here, I'll show you another sneak peek here. So this one, excuse my cat, guys. So this one where I've got my protein, and then with the protein, I've got them all separated. And I'm doing very much the same thing. I'm taking the Ziploc bag, and I'm moving it over into much smaller containers. So here I buy family packs, and then I'll make it into smaller and smaller portions. So I've got the protein separated and I've got the veggies separated, and it's those two things together that help me get ahead of the meal game. Now, I'm not doing meals for, 40 meals in advance kind of thing, but what I am doing is I'm getting the next week ready. So I'm not planning the next month out because that's a little overwhelming. If I'm planning a month out, I'm probably not, I wouldn't even know where to start. But when it comes to planning the next week, I'll portion things into a smaller sense so that it's not as overwhelming. So by taking the steps today, it's less overwhelming later. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop from ever being overwhelmed. It's more of a, here's what I'm doing to help mitigate that by taking these steps sooner. Okay, so I've got my skewered beef out of the way. I've got my pork chops done, and now I'm working on the chicken breasts. Cool. So chicken breasts are almost done. I've got one more package. I'll squeeze the air out of them, because then what I'll do is I'll put them in another Ziploc bag, just the pair of them. So I'll put the chicken breast in an even larger Ziploc bag and then freeze that. And then now I'm at a spot where I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to label them, I'm going to put today's date on there. And then I know that I don't have to worry, that it's all taken care of. And so when I combine the protein, I'll take out a protein and then I'll take out a Ziploc bag of the veggies, and then I'll put them in the slow cooker. And then each slow cooker meal, when I finally chop it up, when I get it out of the way, here, let me come back to me, guys. Okay, so when I finally chop it up, when I finally get it out of the way, I need to take out the overlay, sorry. When I chop it all up and get it all out of the way, I've got 4 to 6 meals in advance. And that 4 to 6 meals, I'm not going to eat all of that right now, like in portions. So then when I take those portions and I have yogurt containers, like those big yogurt containers, and then I'll put a meal in those. And what I'll do is I'll take those meals, I'll take 2 out, and those are 2 I'm going to eat, but I'm going to have 4 meals left over. So then I'll take the 4 and I'll put them in the freezer, the yogurt containers, and then I'll have those meals ready to go. So I'll take a day off, my first day off, I'll go through, do my meal prep for the week, and I'm often planning a week ahead. So I'm not really focusing on a month, I'm focusing on the next 7 days. So when I'm doing my meal prep, I'm not doing meal prep for that week. I'm actually planning for the next week. And then so I'm always a week ahead, minimum. And then so that 1 week helps me have that ease where I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat that day or that week. And know I'm going to have a healthy meal. And some of my friends will have like spaghetti for like 18 days. You know, they'll have that one meal for like until they run out of that meal. And that's okay too. But to help avoid that meal crunch, I'll do all these steps of getting all my meals in advance by making the slow cooker meals for the 8 meals or 4 to 6 meals, whatever that is. Portion those, break it apart, freeze the meals, so then I don't have to worry about worrying. So then I'll have 4 of the beef stew. But then I don't wait. I'll start the slow cooker and I'll fire up chicken. And then I'll do 6 meals for the chicken, take 2 out. I'm going to eat those. And then I'm going to put 4 in the freezer. And then I'm going to do a slow cooker for the pork chops. You know, I might use like the mushroom gravy with the pork chops. And so I'm spicing it up all the time. I'm not eating 18 meals of the same thing all the time. So that helps me go and not have to worry about becoming inundated with food, worrying about food. Because if I know me, if I am left to making the decision about what I'm going to eat and I don't have anything prepared, the chances are great. Chances are greater than 0. I'm probably just going to order pizza or something. And I still order pizza. Like, I'm not saying don't order food. What I'm saying is don't set yourself up for failure by not setting yourself up for success first. Anyway, okay, so that was talking about meals and food real quick. Let's jump in. I think that covers the 10 minutes for the pre-show. We were talking about the pre-show here earlier. Okay, I want to move over to the next one, what halts us. The benefits of identifying state awareness. So identifying what we're feeling as an emotional trigger. So it's important to note that what we're feeling right now isn't the actual circumstance itself. It's the response we're attaching to that circumstance. So if I'm making a decision based on my emotions, or am I making a decision based on the situation itself? So separating those two together will help mitigate that by, we move to the next one, the emotion can cause the reaction, and that reactions themselves, even at the best of times, you know, a normal person, a normie, a normal person, when they're in an emotional situation, it can be very challenging to be in. And so if we have reactions and we're in an imbalanced state, so if we're not at a perfect balance, making those same decisions with those same reactions, with those same circumstances, sometimes our best decisions are not made when we're not in that balanced mode, when we're not in that balanced state. So the challenging part is, well, how do you get to that balance? And this is where that acronym comes in, HALT, the hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So if we mitigate that, the hunger component, one of the steps I'm taking is through the meal prep. And that's what I just showed you here earlier. So as we sense our emotion, you know, that's, our emotions are a signal, and a signal is that something needs to change. So if we're feeling that signal, if we're feeling that emotion, and we're in that situation, what are some things we can do to help change? You know, either it's our perception that needs to change, it's our environment that needs to change. In other words, what I'm saying is, what are the circumstances? And the circumstances can be, for me, relating back to that meal prep, you know, if I'm feeling hungry and in that hunger state, I'm making poor and rash decisions, you know, what are the circumstances that led up to that? You know, if I squandered my time, maybe a little bit of meal prep can help mitigate that. You know, if I'm, you know, I can't just say, just believe yourself to not be hungry. Well, that's not going to work. You're going to need food to help change that. But what are some ways I can help get food into my life? You know, so if I'm believing that the world is against me and I notice that I haven't eaten, maybe it's not the world that's actually against me. Maybe it's actually my inability to plan in advance that put me into that situation where the circumstance, the outcome is I'm hungry. So what can I do to help mitigate that? And that's where the meal prepping for me came in. Okay, so once we agree that we can, like, once we agree what's causing the reaction, with that emotion that we're sensing, we can then begin to once we've labeled it, for lack of a better word, we're then free to move forward and recognize the limit of that emotion. Once we recognize the limit of that, once we've labeled it, we can then define it, and we're free to move forward from it. So, safety moment as we jump in, it's okay to not know the answers. It's okay to identify something, and it's okay to, I don't want to say not recognize it, but it's okay to not know what to do. But it's not okay to let that emotion start making decisions for you. It's not okay to let it run rampant. So what we want to do is to help move forward in a positive light, in a constructive way. What are some ways we can help appreciate that in a supportive, conducive way? You know, for someone that's watching this show, you want to live an outstanding life, and you're not going to be able to do that if we're making knee-jerk, quick reactions to everything that happens. Then you're living your life in reaction mode, which is no real way to live life. You know, that's the white knuckling we talked about earlier. If you're living your life in reaction, you're not really living. You're just waiting for the next big thing to happen. Anyway, so let's take control of our life. Let's move forward in a way that's successful. And that's where the acronym we talked about earlier, HALT, the hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. We got a couple more bonus ones for you. My friend Susan here, she chatted about, it's almost like the 7 dwarves of success. And I thought that was hilarious, so I ran with it. And we elaborated on it, we called it HALTING. So it's not just HALT, it's HALTING, the 7 dwarves of success. Kind of got it reversed here, but you get the idea. Okay, so hungry. If I'm making rash decisions in the moment and I happen to be hungry, maybe I'm not actually hungry, maybe I'm hangry. And I don't know if you've seen the Danny DeVito commercials where he's like angry and he's upset and someone gives him a Snickers and then he changes back into like a ballerina or something. That's the idea. So if I'm making a decision and I notice that I haven't eaten that day, I'm not saying go out and buy Snickers. I'm saying maybe the situation I put myself in is because I didn't plan in advance, because I didn't organize my meals, and because I didn't orchestrate enough to lodge a meal for that day. You know, don't take this as a sign for me saying go out and plan your next 7 days. Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a little bit of structure at the beginning of your week can help set the rest of your week up for success. And that can come through avoiding being hangry. That can come through not being hungry. You're going to get hungry eventually. Just amp up your food. Maybe plan a little bit more. You know, I can go out and buy pizza, and the pizza will last me, a day or two? But for that same value, I could buy a week's worth of food that will last me much longer and be much heartier and be much more fulfilling. So the same $40 or $30, whatever that is, in 1 week versus just a couple of days. So here's where, if I'm making the decision and I'm hungry, I want that food right now, but I can order pizza and it'll be here in 20 minutes. So that 20 minutes convenience versus the 1 week convenience. What part of me is making the decision? How can I help mitigate that? Sure, I might order pizza right now, but it's just a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And for someone that wants a successful life, an outstanding life, maybe that's going to come in the form of digging deeper beyond our circumstances and looking beyond those emotions and seeing what part of us is feeling that and allowing us to move forward in a much more constructive way. Okay, so we've talked about being hangry. No good has ever come from being hangry. Okay, so let's move forward. Angry, that's the next part. So what can I do to reduce the feeling of anger? And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset, frustrated. It's okay to have those feelings of resentment. And if you're new here, we've talked about these things before. And that reminds me, hold on. If you're new here and you want to get reminders about what we're talking about, feel free to type show in the comments and we will have a notification sent out to you. We send notification just before we go live. And if you're new here, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. We talk about all things recovery, about overcoming addiction. So these are our show topics. Okay, so we were talking about being hangry. We're talking about, having those feelings and sensations of being angry. And it's not bad to have those feelings. I want to stress that here. In another episode, we did talk about stress. And in another episode, if you're new, I can link it in the comments, where we talked about triggers. So we talked about stressful situations that can lead up into triggers. In another episode, we even dug into what happens when we are triggered and we actually end up hitting that rock bottom state. It's never a positive thing, hitting rock bottom. I've hit rock bottom. It's never, I don't want to say no good has ever come from it. This show has actually come from hitting that rock bottom state for me. Wanting to share my story, help others get to that connective spot. This show is mainly meant for people who have made the decision that this is something they want. I don't want to try and convince someone not to do something, but for someone that's already made the decision that this is what they want, that they want to live this outstanding life, then this show is a companion for them, more than trying to persuade someone. Anyway, so that's my little disclosure about anger. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to let that anger make decisions for you. I was talking with one of my back at the treatment center, one of my counselors, at the treatment center, he was saying that he never really has a bad day. And that really floored me. When he was saying he didn't have a bad day, I was like, what do you mean? Everybody has a bad day. Everybody. And he's like, no. And he challenged me, and he's like, Jason, I can have a bad minute. I can have a bad hour. But I won't let me have a bad day. And when he said that, I was blown away. I was like, what do you mean you can't have a bad day? Everybody has a bad day. And he's like, no. I've heard people say they've got a bad day, they've had a bad month. Some will even have a bad year or a bad decade. Holy cow. Can you imagine that, guys? A bad decade. I don't have a bad decade. That was my immediate response. I don't have a bad year either. And then I began to wonder, do I allow myself to have a bad month? Do I allow myself to have a bad day? And he's like, he'll let himself feel the emotion, he'll identify it, and then allow him to move forward from it. He'll let that control him for a minute, he'll let that control him for an hour, but beyond that, he allows it to let go. And in another episode, we actually talked about resentment. If you're new here, go check out the other episodes. We've covered quite a range of topics. Most of them are actually user submitted. You guys reach out to me and you send me messages all the time. I love it. Some of the things you reach out about are hilarious. But thanks again for sending me those positive messages. I really appreciate that. We've talked about hungry, angry. Let's move forward to lonely. So do I have relationships that are built on a solid foundation? So if I'm feeling lonely, that calls into question what part of me is feeling lonely. Is it that I have established relationships that are built on a solid foundation? What am I going to do? Am I going to be angry because I don't have a solid foundation with my relationships? If I'm surrounding myself with people. We had another episode where we talked about community. And if I'm surrounding myself with a community of people that are not built on that solid foundation, is that really a community? At what point am I being drained, when a relationship is sucking me down more than it's adding value? Are those signs, are those signals? If I'm choosing to be in a relationship with, if my girlfriend is doing nothing but taking, is that the kind of relationship that I want in a successful relationship? If I'm in a relationship where in that same girlfriend, all I'm ever doing is taking, is that is that how I qualify a relationship? Is me just sucking all of that from them? That's not really, you want a relationship. I heard this Tony Robbins quote where he was saying, make a list of the qualities that you want in a partner. Not just things like, I want them to have nice jeans, I want them to have fancy cars, I want them to have a big house, nice, 6 cars. those are the kind of qualities I mean. And like, make a list of the qualities that you're looking for in a significant other. And it sounds hard, because it is hard. Once you start making the list, it starts rolling. I'm like, oh, I want someone that's empathetic, genuine, caring. I want someone that's able to keep up, that wants to travel as much as I do. You know, I want my girlfriend to be someone that's able to... I've actually made a video about this. If you want to check out another video, I made 21 questions for my future wife, and I wrote it, and it's called Dear Future Wife. I can't believe we've made so many videos. We're up to like a dozen now, or more than a dozen. But I went and I moved them all over to YouTube last night. That was crazy. That was an adventure. But relationships. Once you finish making a list of that relationship that you're looking for, the next list you make is, what are the qualities that I would need to have, that I would need to show up with in order to attract this kind of a caliber of a person? So if this is the list that I want, what is it that I need to have first in order for me to qualify to have this kind of relationship? And if the emotion that I'm feeling right now is that loneliness component, is that because I'm just surrounding myself with a community of people that are not adding value? Is it because I'm choosing to surround myself with a relationship that's not keeping up to the same standard? Am I going to be angry that a relationship ended that wasn't built on a foundation? Like these, okay, we're branching off now into a whole other topic, but the ideas are still the same. Like, if I choose to surround myself with a community of people that are supportive, engaging, then I'm going to feel much more lasting connection, and it's likely to reduce the chances of feeling lonely. Or I can choose to surround myself with a different community, and I'm probably going to get a different result. But if I'm not feeling happy and we're, you know, I almost wanted to say validated, then maybe it's time to make a different decision. And having the strength and courage to move on from that takes a much larger person, especially if you've been in that relationship and it's time to end it. You know, it's very challenging if you need to make the call and say, hey, you know what, fast forward 5, 10, 20 years, I don't think this is going to work out. But you need to make that call, and you need to be brave enough to make that decision. Sometimes you're on the other end of that decision, and that's very challenging too. But that takes time and the strength and the courage to move up, move on, and move through. But that's, you know, again, that relationship, well, how do you qualify that? If I'm not adding up to that standard, is that their fault? If they're not adding up to the same standard that I'm holding, then maybe I need to either revisit that or look at that, or maybe it's time to move through, move on. All right, guys, let's move on to tired. So in the acronym, we had hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. We're going to chat about, you know, when I say tired, what about sleepiness? So what can I do to help set myself up for success in the morning? So if I wake up and I'm not feeling recharged, if I wake up and I'm not feeling juiced and ready to tackle the day, then maybe I need to look at what habits am I getting myself into that, you know, if I go to the gym and I work out, I'm actually getting ready to go to the gym after the show. If I go to the gym and work out, then I'm going to be tired at the end of the day. I got into the stuck in the rut where I was having a hard time managing the time to go to the gym. And I was talking with my friend Vanessa about this, and Vanessa had some really great ideas. And after digesting it and going through my Spark sessions with Vanessa, I came to the idea of the stigma that I was using was getting in the way of me going to the gym. So what I decided to do was to break apart my workouts. So I'll have 2 small mini workouts, one that's going to be with weights, and then the other one is going to be with endurance. And it's the endurance one that I'm going to be putting more effort into. But by breaking apart the workouts into smaller pieces, I'm able to schedule them easier. Knowing I'm not getting in a full workout on both, I'm going to do the weights on one and the endurance on the other. That helped get me further ahead so that I didn't have to worry about dedicating a whole hour to going and working out at once. I could break it apart into smaller chunks and then have the faith of knowing that those 2 workouts I'm going to get in the day. You know, I can schedule in 2 mini workouts in the day, and that makes me tired at the end of the day which then makes me, I don't know why I'm doing this. It feels like I'm swimming. I can feel when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel more energized. I'm ready to tackle the day. I'm getting up earlier. I'm working out earlier. I'm going to bed earlier. And by doing that, it sounds weird, but these little tiny things add up. I wasn't using the steam room at the gym. And then so by going to the steam room, I'm able to have that time to help meditate, in addition to working in meditation throughout the day on top of all this. So the benefits just start stacking on top of each other. The more I'm planning in advance, I'm getting all this organized. It sounds like structure. It's just more of a peace of mind for me. Okay, so let's move on. Intuitiveness. So intuition. What I mean by this is, what else can this mean? So if I'm in a situation, I'm feeling that resentment, I'm feeling that anger, I'm feeling that challenge or that emotion, I challenge myself to think outside the box, and I began to question, what else could this mean? What else can this mean? So if I'm in the situation, maybe, I don't want to say what needs to change is the circumstances, but maybe I need to change my perception. Maybe I need to change my expectations. Just circling back to that relationship example. If the relationship isn't going as smooth or as ideal as you had anticipated, maybe I didn't set the expectation in my mind. Maybe I didn't share that with them. Or maybe they're not even aware what I believe a relationship is. Maybe we're just together and it's convenient. Maybe I need to change my idea leading up to it. Just because I'm angry, remember those are the signals that we need that anger is an emotion, and that emotion is a signal, and that signal can tell us that something needs to change. And this is where the intuitiveness comes in. Being strong enough to identify, yes, a signal is taking place. Yes, I'm feeling an emotion. But what else can this mean? Does this mean I need to change my perception? Does this mean I need to change my expectations? Does this mean I need to change my circumstances? And then by looking at those three, I can move forward in a decision that allows me to make a constructive action based on those emotions rather than a knee-jerk reaction, because maybe I need to help qualify my emotion. Maybe I need to help understand the other person's circumstances. Maybe they're not able to rise up to that capability. Maybe I've set an expectation that's unrealistic. Maybe I just need to change my ideas and my thought process around it. Maybe I need to change the relationship. Again, it's mainly about asking questions that are much larger than the situation. And here we go. And so we talked about hungry, angry, lonely, tired, intuitive, and now we're looking at N, no roadblocks. By no roadblocks, I mean no excuses, only results. I mean no pity parties. I don't want to say, I can't go to the gym because I don't have a car, or I can't do a live show because who's going to watch it? Or I can't go get my learner's license because I don't own a car. I can't go buy a home because the bank won't lend me money. I can't, if I'm making all these excuses before I even begin, that's kind of deflating me before I even start. So someone that's willing to have an outstanding life isn't going to be able to go and do these things if all we're doing is limiting our beliefs before we even start. I was taking this course it was Michael Hyatt, and he was talking about your new year. The best year ever is the title of the course. And he talks about replacing limiting beliefs with liberating truths. And that idea blew my mind about, if I can take this handful of ideas that are limiting me and then set them free into a liberating truth, then I'm free to go and create a new world with new expectations. But it's going to take a lot of work as well. I took that course in January, and here we are in August. Man, there's been a lot of my life that's changed in the past year. I don't want to jump into that too much, but this show was partly one of those things. So again, I wanted to share. I think I went backwards. I went intuitiveness. What else can this mean? But here we go. Gratitude. All right. So here's the G in gratitude So we had halting, HALTING. This is the G, the last letter, for gratitude. And this one is talking about being grateful. So I'm not able to be grateful and fearful at the same time. I can't hold those two emotions at the same value. It's just not possible. So if I ensure that I'm starting my day off with gratitude, I have a gratitude list, a gratitude journal, where I add things to my gratitude list all the time. And by having that ritual of a practice, it gives me the ability to focus on those things first. So living a life of gratitude first allows me to not have as much space to focus on the things that creep in, those insecurities, those limiting beliefs. These are things that, if left unchecked, they can actually break down the whole cycle. Or like we discussed earlier in this video, it can offset the balance. And so no one wants to live that life. No one wants to have that limiting belief where it's making decisions for us, running amok. I made another video talking about gratitude and how to live a life that's gratitude first. I can't believe we've gone over so many different topics in one video, but it's all culminating together. It's all building up. And so I wanted to share that. Well, let's remove the lower third. That again, if you're new here, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. We talk about recovery and overcoming addiction. We talk about strategies, mindsets, ideas, and it's a conversation. We want to know what your thoughts are on this. But if you like what we're talking about and you're new here and you want to get reminders, type show in the comments and we'll have a reminder sent out to you. And the reminder will come in the Facebook message. For people that are watching the replay, thank you again for hanging out and being cool. I really appreciate that. I need to get myself to the gym because it's my day off. I need to get my exercise in. But thank you again for hanging out. I really appreciate it. You guys take care. Have fun. Bye.